Hey y'all, it's your sugar here, and it's Wednesday night, and it's about that time, 7:30. We here on Talkin Fight Sugar Show, talking about women's boxing. And for those who aren't quite familiar with Sugar, I'm just gonna reintroduce myself. My name is Natalie SUGAR Brown. I've been a elite level female fighter for a lot of years in women's boxing, and I'm here now to discuss the actual authentic experiences and the um, behind the scenes type of deal in women's boxing, and to get that conversation going so people can have some information and answer questions and let you guys into our world of women's boxing. So tonight's topic is show me the money. Show me the money, right? Meaning who is who is paying in women's boxing? Who is the one that's bringing the spotlight to us now in women's boxing and helping us get our money up? So we're discussing promoters who are now um, a making a substantial mark in our industry as far as now um, putting the spotlight on female fighters, women's boxing, as well as adding to our pay grade, putting us on these big shows now, these giving us these opportunities to shine and to uh, generate fanfare and just all the things that the pioneers in women's boxing were fighting for and are still fighting for. So let's get into the chat tonight. And I always say, you guys out there, I love, love, love when you guys chime in. So chime in when you want to, if you want to. Okay. Ask me questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question, right? Um, if it's just you really having no clue about who I'm talking about and you're still asking and you want to know, of course, I will definitely engage. Oh, Vinny Ali, hey, um, that's you, Eric. Hey, Eric, thank you for chiming in with Sugar tonight. So, it's a party now, okay? And let's get started. So, we're going to, my lovely assistant is going to put up my first image. Okay, all right. So these two guys here are big promoters, not only in women's boxing, but uh, in boxing in general. Okay, so on the left there you have Eddie Hearn, and I'm sure you guys recognize that name. He's been doing a lot, not only in women's boxing and men's boxing, and um, he's the man of the hour, and beside him um, is Frank Warren. Okay, and Frank Warren Promotion. So Frank Warren has been Mike. Hey, Mike. Michael Orr chimes in. Hey, hey, Mike. Thanks for chiming in tonight. Okay, all right. It's a party. I'm so excited. So, now, when I say show me the money, this is what has happened in the field of women's boxing up until present. Okay. So there were very few opportunities for female fighters to, number one, get fights, And especially like number two, having a platform that people can see them on, right? Women's boxing was underground. Just call it underground, okay? So smaller promoters would put a female fight on the show. Goodness, if they felt really generous, they would put two female fighters on the show, and that would be it for like 6 months, and then another one 6 months, and so we were out here either clamoring to get the spot on that on that small show, or we do like some unsanctioned underground shit because we wanted to fight, right? So that was the environment, that was the terrain out here. um and Sugar has done both, okay. um the money was not in the ring up until present. The money you got was the opportunities that came to you outside of the ring from a spectator, a handler, someone who took interest in you as a fighter and just generally wanted to see, invest in you and wanted to see you grow, um, as the baddest broad in the industry. And we made do on that. Some of us did well for ourselves. There were champions. There are always champions. The sanctioning bodies, uh, you know, some we were able to get belts and things like that. And so as women's boxing evolved now, people started to take interest, especially after the 2012 Olympics. That was the first wave of women who were actually seen as prospects that these large name promoters now would take on and make into stars. Because in women's boxing, a star is not born, a star is made. A lot of these women that you see and that their name, they are certainly not the best out there. They are marketed and they got the lucky lottery ticket, and they have uh, a promoter that has put them on a platform. First lady who's ever done it that way, Christy Martin. She lucked out. She used to do those tough women contest, underground contests, and she then got on with Don King, who put her on the Mike Tyson undercards, and she messed around and stole the show on some of them because Mike Tyson fights were short, so you had to have some kind of gravy or something like that, and to add some interest to the card. So Christy Martin did that, and she kind of put there were other women boxing. Trust me, like there always women have always boxed. We have such a rich history, and I will get into our history in another session, in another show. But tonight we're talking about now these guys. Uh, Earlier today, a colleague and I, when we were talking about the show, he said the madmen of boxing, which, yeah, you got to be. I mean, we're fighters. We fight in the ring, but you got to be mad crazy to actually put together a fight, to know what the public wants to see, to know how to build for people to pay attention to the fact that somebody finna get their ass whooped. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it is a fight. At the end of the day, it's a fight. Somebody's gonna get beat, right? So these guys now put it together. They and found a way that we can all make a living from it and make some money. Um, Now, I'm going to start with Frank Warren, the gentleman there on the right hand side. He has been, I mean, these guys. Let me just start off by saying this, okay? before I even get into talking about these promoters, right? In as a woman in boxing, right? Can't just take any contract that's sent to you, right? It's very dangerous out here. My last episode, I always talk about the black eyes in women's boxing because it is something that is prevalent, and women get flown out. Fighters get flown out to these places, and they're forced to deal with, you know, promoters who don't follow through on their deal, crappy conditions. You know, they're not they can't even they're not even staying in a proper hotel, you know, or they're not getting food, and then they have to fight, just things like that. um the most tragic, where some of us, and I say us because we are all connected, some of us get flown out to a fight and never come back home alive. Okay, so this is how serious it gets out there, especially for women's boxing, because our stuff can get swept under the rug. No one really pays attention out here. Um, when it comes to women's boxing. So nowadays, there has been some shine on the tragedies that have happened recently, but those are not by far not the first that have happened. Um, Women have lost their lives, and you just keep moving, right? And all of us women in the industry, we're aware of these dangers. So, um, as a woman now, out here looking to take contracts for these fights. Back in the day, you had a manager, and if that manager was looking out for your best interests, there are things that you want to certainly consider before you take on a contract. And I'm going to go over those quickly. Okay. So the first thing that you want to consider is who, okay? Who's the promoter? Who's the fighter? All right. Second, where? Where is this? Right? Because I've been to some interesting places to fight. And if it were not for the fact that I had a protective team around me, those would have been a no-no. Okay. And um, a lot of women, a lot of women in boxing, female fighters, they don't have teams. Sometimes they fly out, most likely with their one coach, um, or they fly out with a friend who's going to work their corner, because they think, oh, it's just another broad that I'm going to fight. And like I said, it can end very tragically. So you want to consider who's the promoter. Who is this that you're fighting now? What a time to be a fighter now, because now we have BoxRec, and now we have YouTube, and now we have these resources that we can really check out the opposition that we're facing by name. Um, you want to know where, because like I said, there's some places that are very hostile, especially to women who fight. um, we ain't the jam everywhere, so you have to understand that these places, not only are you flying in to fight, but you're flying into maybe flying into a hostile environment where outside of the ring you may be attacked, or you can get hurt. So protect yourself at all times. um, you want to consider the timing. And a lot of people get caught up this way, especially nowadays, because matchmaking is a science. Okay, so a lot of the shenanigans, and I call it the shenanigans. This one particularly, the okey doke, is they'll have a fighter, a female fighter, training for months, weeks, and then they'll call the opponent or the opposition 2 weeks before the fight, right? So, and this was very prevalent in women's boxing during my time and before, because I was on a show earlier in well, later, because this is June 1st, so later in the month of May, where Tim Witherspoon said, well, you got to be ready, you just got to be ready to go. I mean, that's very old school, right? Yeah, you got to be ready to go. But now, because matchmaking, the science of matchmaking is being used as a weapon now, you cannot be ready to go. You'll never be ready for somebody if you're only given a 2 week notice walking in to fight them. And a lot of these people, fighters say, oh, I took the fight on 2 weeks notice and I won and this and that. Good. Great. Right? But the professional way, not a $50 fighter, right? Professional fighter that plans to have a career doing this is not the type of fighter to be taking 2 week notice fights, right? It doesn't look good for you, because you are now walking into a potential situation where you don't know how to prepare to perform against the opposition, and they've had your name on on their radar, on a list for weeks, months, and then you get a 2 week notice that you're going to fight them. And someone has a grand upper hand in that situation. We don't want to do that anymore, right? We don't do that anymore. Especially since we want more contenders, because there's so much potential out here, talent wise, with women, right? And this 2 week notice garbage is taking a lot of prospects off the map, because in women's boxing, how it goes is, you're brought in, you're the lamb to the slaughter, so you're brought in for this name girl to slaughter you. And if you give her a good fight, even with the 2 weeks notice, you're going to lose, and then you're going to go into the bargain bin, never to be seen again, right? Because they're more focused on this name girl. We want to stop that. We want the fans, you guys, to love women's boxing, or to respect women's boxing so much that when y'all see a bad broad, a broad that can fight, a broad that does well for herself in there, whether she's a name or not, you remember her and you support her and you follow her. So the timing, no 2 week notice, right? You want enough time to at least prepare, or to feel like you're prepared going into uh, a fight, right? It could be a 4 rounder, 6 rounder, 8 rounder, 10 rounder. Women, we don't do 12 rounders. And of course, we know that they're 2 minute rounds. So a 2 minute round is a sprint. You got to know exactly what you're doing in 2 minutes, right? You don't get 3 minutes to break nobody down. If women were fighting 3 minute rounds, a lot of these champions would not be champions for sure, because that 3 minute round is a total different beast. 2 minutes, you could play hide and seek and touch and go, right? Fighter like Katie Taylor, they have her number one for pound. Missy Poo could not run. You can't run and you can't hide for 3 minutes straight in that boxing ring. You got to stand and fight. So the rules are different. And the terrain is slightly different. So, when we talk about the timing, we're talking about all of those things that need to be considered. Um, Number of rounds, of course, and the distance that you're going to travel, right? Um, you're getting, for you to rush, and sometimes there's a time difference and all of these things, and then you got to perform. These are all tools, weapons used in matchmaking, and you have to understand that the matchmaker works. The matchmaker assume that the matchmaker is never on your team. The matchmaker works for your opposition, right? So they're going to look out for their best interests. They'll give you an opportunity, but they are not, certainly not, looking for you to have the upper hand, or to have the any advantages, right? Because shit, if if you match somebody up and they get beat, guess what happens? You don't have a job. You don't get to match them no more, right? So that's why it's gotten really slimy, to where these matchmakers have become some of the deadliest people on the team, because they sit and they stalk and they watch and they wait for a lame, right? They wait for you to become stale. They wait for you to be shelved. They wait for you to be collect dust, and then they pull you out the bin and say, 2 weeks, I have an opportunity for you to fight. Good money. Come on. Right? So be aware of that. My people out here that want to box, my women that want to box, and my people out here that are interested in women's boxing. So the distance to travel, sometimes there's a time difference, and that makes a lot of, that really makes a big deal. So I fought in Japan, and they're literally 12 hours different. So it's like, what time is it now? Let me look at it. It's almost 8 o'clock right now in the evening here in the United States, and it's gonna be 8 o'clock in the morning over there in Japan, right? So that's how that works. So when you're flying into that, your body is used to this time while it's 8 o'clock in the morning over there, and then to perform with that time difference, right? So you're essentially fighting when you should be, when your body feels like sleeping, and vice versa, you know. Hey, Tony. Yes, it's good to see that you did catch the live. Thank you for chiming in, Tony. Um, Thanks for coming in tonight. We're talking about, you know, the art, or the promoters in women's boxing, and you know, show us the money now, because these guys are the ones that are bringing money, putting money in our pockets now, putting money on the table. But I'm discussing now, in understanding how to take fights, the contract, how to take fights in your best interest, and what to look out for. So there's the timing and the time difference. What kind of support do you have? Are they gonna fly your team out? They only gonna fly your coach out? Do you have a cut man? What are they, what is your support going into this battle? And that's a big deal. A lot of promoters, especially the small ones back in my day, when you get a fight, they were really nasty. They didn't even want to, they flew you out and one other person, right? So you couldn't get a team. You had to essentially have a sponsor, or you had to pay anybody else's way that was coming for you. So when you got to the fights, you would find, there's people hanging around, so you would find a cut man, right, to help work your corner. Or if they wouldn't fly your trainer out, they'd make a deal. And some fighters, some females were desperate enough to, um Tony, I just hit your live on my community page. Thank you, Tony. Yes, like, subscribe, share some of this sugar. Thank you, Tony, for showing me love and spreading this sugar. Okay, and I do hope we get some people interested. So, yes, these promoters now, it was real raggedy back then, right? So, it was a time where women weren't as dangerous, or there weren't as many dangerous women, meaning there weren't many women that could totally beat the shit out of you and put you in the ICU, in the hospital, like how what's happening now, right? It was just a scrap. So you could possibly take a risk in going somewhere by yourself and just give a good fight another broad and make it a good fight and make you some money. um if you couldn't hold your own, though, right, you would get seriously hurt, like I said. So these are the things, right? So um support, are they gonna give you per diem, right? Because they'll fly you out a couple days before the weigh-in, maybe 2 days before a weigh-in. Are they gonna give you a hotel to stay in? Are they gonna give you per diem or money to pay for meals, or are they gonna provide you meals? Sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes they'll put you in, a real hole in the wall, and you're there, and then they put you miles away from where you can get food. Yeah, they do stuff like that. Or they put you in an isolated place where it's just very hard for you to get what you need in order to perform that night. These are the shenanigans that go on in boxing, but especially women's boxing, because we didn't have a voice um, before. We didn't have these big platforms before, um, to take measure from. So we were being treated crappy, and all we wanted to do was fight, and we were grateful for the opportunity. So these are things now with these bigger guys, promoters, that I'm going to go through now, that we are to expect now, because we have spotlight. We have these larger names investing in putting these shows on. So we can get some good treatment and some respect now. Where before, that certainly wasn't the deal. You want to know if there's what kind of platform are you fighting in? Is this a rinky dink bar? Is this a hole in the wall club somewhere? Is this a venue that will be shared? They have their own local um, television or local media that will share the fight and what's happening, um, in this matchup. And you want to look for these things. And my coach Jerome Coffey, one of my coach, um, goodness, Tony. I'm not sure, Tony, what you're asking, right? Give me a little bit more detail, and then we'll get back to you. Um, so my coach Jerome used to say, um, make sure we want to make sure when we fly out or where we go, there's going to be somebody to see and tell the story. We're not going to go to hole in the walls, right? We're not going to go to rinky dink clubs that you can get robbed severely, and then that blemishes on your record. We want to go to places where, at least if you do get robbed, if you do get a nasty decision, there is something recorded that people can look at objectively and say, that, she was given a raw deal, that she didn't win that fight. You want witnesses, right, for that. But so there were a lot of blemishes on very good fighters' careers, because good fighters, good opposition would get flown out and robbed blind, because there wasn't any visual platform to see actually what happened. And then, the next day you have the media who works for who they like, certain promoters, to tell a bogus story about the fight that you might have got robbed in. Okay. And then, like I said, the venue. You want to consider these venues, now that you're going to go fight into, because the venues can be a dangerous venue. It could be just a bar. It could be like, it could be somewhere that, for the greater good of your career, you don't want nobody knowing or seeing that, oh, that's a bar fighter. Oh, oh, um, where was this? That was somebody's backyard, because there used to be women's bouts in people's backyard. Yeah, it went down like that at a certain time. It was underground like that, um, in women's boxing. So I went over that because now we're going to talk about these promoters that are showing us the money in women's boxing. And I'm not saying that, oh, they're the saviors. What I'm saying is, now, yeah, they're throwing us a bone out here. So it's better than we had before, and it's looking good. So on the right here we have Frank, with the British, the big boys of Britain, or of the UK. Because if you want to make some money in women's boxing, there are certain places that you are certainly going to want to go and fight at. And right now, you want to go fight over in the UK. They are paying good, and they're having lots of opportunities for women to fight. Now, Jane Couch was the pioneer of women's boxing over there. They're not giving her the flowers that she deserves. Jane Couch, y'all look her up. I mean, she would fight anybody, anywhere, fly from England over to the US. She tried to get a license over there. They denied her license. Like, I mean, she went through the business, right? They beat her up in and outside the ring, and she just rolled with it. And now, that there are women, in the UK, women's boxing is huge, and you don't see Jane Couch getting any shine. And she was the one that started that ball rolling over there. She was the fighter that put herself out there and bled for this. So these two men here, they real raggedy for doing that. Yeah, I think that's really disrespectful to the history of women's boxing. But it is our responsibility to make sure that we get our respect, and the women who have paved the way for these other women to make this money, for these promoters to make money. They need to get some kind of acknowledgement, at least acknowledge the effort, because it didn't just happen overnight, and it certainly wasn't easy. So Frank Warren here. Up, Tony's review. Serrano versus Taylor was one of the biggest fights in boxing this year. I can't wait for Shields, Marshall, and Baumgardner Mayer. Thanks for chiming in with that one, Tony. So I'm going to deviate from the topic and talk about that. Yes, Serrano versus Taylor was one of the biggest fights in boxing. I love that. I really did. I love that a woman's fight is one of the biggest fights that happened this year. The matchup, eh, I really wasn't. I'm really not too keen on any of those fighters because one, Katie Taylor, like I said, she's a 2-minute fighter, and Serrano, I mean, she's very skilled and all of that good stuff, but I I think connections and just playing the game got this thing on such a big platform. I appreciate it. I like it, but there's so many great contenders out here that would have done real good by showing a like how we really get down out here in women's boxing. Okay. I can't wait for Shields versus Marshall too. I can't wait for that. Shields versus Marshall, uh, I'm excited for because both have some good IQ. So we're going to see some real stuff go down in the ring. We're not seeing touch and go and playing tag and running around and you know what I'm saying. We we'll probably see some um strategy executed, right? Because she has a great IQ. I'm not sure who's handling her corner, but I know Marshall has stepped away from the Mayweather camp, and she's taken on Tyson Fury's father. And in her last performances, she's showing some of the generalship that uh, actually has made Tyson Fury such a menace to the heavyweight realm. So there's some tactics and generalship that I see, that I want to see how Clarissa Shields deals with. And Shields now pressing Marshall. I want to see if Marshall is really that this ain't amateurs no more, and she has that story where she beat Clarissa Shields in the amateurs. We in the pro realm now, far different from the amateurs. This is women fighting, big girl panties now. You don't have a referee coming in, stop, put your head up, stopping every little bit and touching and tag. We got, you're in there with these smaller gloves, no headgear, and they're going to let you fight through any little entanglement, and they're going to let you, um, whatever. Ross Johnson 20. Hello there. Thanks for chiming in to the Sugar Show. Okay, we talking boxing here. We talking about I'm just in the middle of talking about how excited I am about the matchup between Shields and Marshall, right? So Marshall boasts that she beat Shields in the amateurs and she has that victory, but it's a total different game, right? They got pushing, pulling. You got glove rash that you got to look out for. You got all of this stuff that we definitely did not need to look for in the amateurs. So it's the playing field terrain, the environment here is far different. And I really want to see how Shields and Marshall navigate that. Now, Baumgardner versus Mayer. Okay, so this just came up. To be honest, this is not a big fight for me. Like, these are just two, like I said, these are two popular girls that get a chance to fight, which is great. Baumgardner's claim to fame is that she knocked out goodness, her name is at the top. You know how sometimes the you see the face but you can't put the name. Somebody chime in with the name. Um Baumgardner knocked this fighter out, who clearly, you could see before, she had issues making that weight. So she came into that fight Ross Johnson comes in. I feel like a fraud because I know like a handful of boxers. Baby, listen, you're not coming in for a job interview. You coming in for a chat with Sugar. So if you need to ask a question, if you don't know, ask. Whatever you do know about the handful of fighters, ask, okay? Yes, Eric. Terry Harper. So Baumgardner knocked out Terry Harper, who was clearly having trouble making that weight. You could see it in her previous performances, right? But sometimes it's hard for us to let go. And she thought she Tony comes in, she Medusa Harper. She had her frozen like a statue. Michael Orr says, yes, it was Terry Harper. Now, Terry Harper, I'll tell you this, Terry Harper is a tough cookie, right? What I always say to you guys is this: when you are not fighting in your weight class, in your natural weight class, you're a different fighter. So Terry Harper is a tall, rangy fighter, and she's strong. She's strong for her weight too. She's strong. Okay, but not at that weight. I believe the weight is what, 130? She's not strong at that weight. She's 5'8". You got to, she's depleting herself getting down there. Where Baumgardner's body can still make that weight and she can still be effective. So when she took that punch from Baumgardner, if she was in her weight, if her proper weight, she'd be able to absorb it. But because she was already running off of fumes from making the weight, yes, she did turn into a statue, didn't she? She was gone, right? And it made a glorious victory. Ooh, excuse me, victory for Baumgardner. Okay, which now she's a name. But Baumgardner, she's powerful. She got some stuff going on. She's cute, but she ain't special. Yeah, I said it. Baumgardner got outboxed, y'all. Give me. I know Michael knows this in out there, but Baumgardner got outboxed, really badly, in one of her losses. So the thing, Sugar talks about styles make fights. Okay, so this big, tough, strong banger style is the more common, is the status quo style in women's boxing. You either have that, or then you have the glorified amateur who plays tag in the ring, touch and run, hit and run, hit and run, right? So you have, there it is. She got outboxed by Lina Darto. Is that the Greek fighter? That's the real Medusa, isn't it? She called herself Medusa. Lina Darto. Yep, Tony and Mike, thank y'all for coming in. So yeah, right. So Baumgardner got yeah, Leonardo, she's, and this is the thing with Lina Darto. She fought Katie Taylor too. And at the press conference, like the post press conference, you could clearly see who lost the fight. Katie Taylor had the bruises and all of that stuff all over her, and Lina Darto was sitting there looking like she just came up off the beach. And it was so bad that Katie Taylor's Katie Taylor and her team was so embarrassed that they left. They walked out in the middle of the post press conference because Leonardo said, "Look at me and look at her. You could clearly see who won the fight, right?" And my man here to the left, Mr. Hearn, Eddie Hearn, because that's Katie Taylor's promoter, they all got up and they walked out on Leonardo in the post press conference. Disrespectful. See, shit like that doesn't happen in men's boxing. Punk moves like that don't happen, right? You're supposed to be woman enough to sit down and talk about what went down in the fight, right? Even if I have blemishes and bruises on me, I can say, okay, yeah, you feel like you won the fight, even though I'm talking that yang, yeah, we could do it again. Even though I'd be like, Eddie, please don't let me go back in there with her, you know? But you know, you could talk good for yourself, but because it's women's boxing, you know, you can they can rob a great fighter like Lina Darto and just walk away and leave her standing there with the bag, right? So it's a double-edged sword. You know, we have these promoters here, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, that they're putting the spotlight on in the UK, putting the spotlight on women's boxing, but they're also still playing that nasty game in where they're robbing great fighters of opportunities to grow and and expand and make women's boxing bigger, because there can't only be one queen. There's this is not a monarchy. This is a friggin', you know, this is a jungle, right? And you know, in the jungle, you don't just have one lion, you have several lions, and they go at it, right? They go at it. Some claim territory, some, you know, that's what it is. It's a jungle. So you can't have just one queen sitting on there getting her ass whooped and she still wins. That doesn't work. That's not how women's boxing, that's not how our industry is going to grow, and it's not going to put money in our pockets. It's still going to cap our money, right? Because now Leonardo, because Leonardo, because she's already fought the two big names, and she hasn't, they didn't, she's not a name anymore per se. She's in the bargain bin. No one makes any money. Leonardo doesn't make any money fighting again because no one's promoting her, and no one's gonna make money fighting Leonardo until they pull Leonardo out the bargain bin to use her as a stepping stone for another star that they're making. That's how that works. I hate it, but it is what it is. So Frank Warren, he was an attorney and he was in the industry. This is the gentleman here on the right. He's been in the boxing industry for about 20 years. And these types, they really don't like to see women box. Okay. He's been in boxing for 20 years. And I told y'all about Jane Couch over there in UK, and never once did he give her an opportunity. But with the women, with now that wave of women from the first Olympics in 2012, you know, you had to, if you were in boxing, you had to get a piece of that. So he signed Nicola Adams. And there's a story there where, you know, Nicola Adams was not really happy about how she was treated, um, being a fighter with Frank Warren Promotions. She had some issues there and she had to retire from boxing forever. Maybe maybe her story, we'll talk more about her story one day, but this ain't about Nicola Adams. But she was the first female that he signed. Okay, I think Nicola Adams was an Olympic medalist in 2012. I think she got the gold. And she's a UK fighter. Eddie Hearn. Now that's matchroom sport. Okay, he's becoming the leading force in boxing. Not only boxing, but women's boxing, and making a star of Katie Taylor. Okay, and then he's also been a part of, or the catalyst for making these huge fights. Sorry y'all, I live in the city, I keep saying this so y'all hear this. So this Eddie Hearn now is making these huge platforms for Katie Taylor to draw in pay-per-view and to bring, they fly in the, bad broads from the US over to fight Katie. They fly in bad broads from all over the place, Greece, everywhere to fight Katie. They just not fly Belgium, but they're not flying in the real contenders to fight Katie. They're flying in the safe contenders who have made the silent agreement that, yes, we will make your star shine bright, Eddie Hearn. We'll put in a good fight or whatever, but we know that she's going to beat us and she's going to win. Okay. We'll try our best though. That's the silent agreement with Eddie Hearn. And then you might get a rematch. You might, you know. But if you look like you were too close to beating Katie Taylor, you ain't gonna get no rematch. You ain't gonna get no chance to do it again, right? Because that's his cash cow. So you ain't gonna let that queen look bad. Um, these are like Eddie Hearn has brought now before, where I think Layla Ali versus Jackie Frazier brought in, $1 million payday or $1 million money to the game. And it's because, they came in off of their daddy's name. They didn't come in because they were great fighters. They came in, you know, off the residual impact of what their fathers did in boxing. So people wanted to see it. Eddie Hearn now has homegrown Katie Taylor into being $1 million female fighter, women's fighter. Um, and that's tremendous. He's done great things for women's boxing. Um, Double-edged sword. He could do right by women's boxing by making a better go at cultivating more talent and giving more opportunities. But it is what it is. It's his show. So I'm happy that he will at least focus and not have negative things to say about women's boxing like other promoters have. Um, Frank Warren is one of them. Just don't agree. They don't like to see women fight, women boxing. They don't like to see women fighting. It's something that they're opposed to, but it makes them money, so they're gonna do what makes them money. Um, Now we go from the UK to the USA, right? So if you want to make some money out here in women's boxing, Tony comes in. I was 10 when Layla got married, and I haven't forgiven her yet. That was my wife to be. Yeah, she got married twice. Yeah. She got married to Yaya McClain, and we call him Yaya, right? He's out of Georgia, right? So when I was a young whippersnapper, because Layla's a bit older than me, I was boxing, and Yaya went out to Vegas where I think he met up. That's where he met up with Layla and all of that stuff. And uh, they got together, and he started managing Layla Ali, and he got married to her. And that's how that all started. Yeah. And then, I think it was like maybe a year, maybe a little over a year after Layla got started in the boxing and stuff like that, she realized Yaya ain't the man. He's not the one. But she was still a great fighter. Yeah, and she still had a good career going. So she dropped him and she married a football player. I think Conway, his last name is Conway. And they're still living happily ever after, and they have children now, and she's one of the success stories. She got something out of women's boxing. Didn't really put much except for her name, her daddy name, but she got a lot out of it. And like I said, it's a double-edged sword with women's boxing. You find very few participants that are looking out for the greater good of the industry more so than just getting for themselves and hopping out. And my whole thing about it is, because if I had made it, um, it would be more about building the industry, because there's longevity in building the industry, right? There's now, once I get out the ring and I'm no longer fighting, if I've made added to the industry, there are other opportunities now that I can partake in and have the opportunity and have the the ability to continue to make money and build a career in women's boxing. We don't have that as yet. We don't have that. So, promoters that are doing right, I mean, that are giving to women's boxing in the US now. So we're starting off, and this is not in any particular order, okay? So we have Golden Boy Promotions, Oscar De La Hoya, okay? And his partner, Richard Schaefer. Now, once again, that first wave of Olympic women from 2012 got signed. It's like, whoa, us women out here that we were already, we were trying and we were trying to make money, and we were busting our ass to put women's boxing on the map. They basically jumped way over our heads and was like, forget y'all. Y'all ain't nobody. These are the females. These are the legitimate women that are going to represent women's boxing, which was that was a cold slap in the face, especially the fact that how hard we worked and bled to keep the industry going. So that's what the way where the these promoters are starting to take women's boxing away from the women and starting to control the industry where we are now. Okay, so Oscar, the Golden Boy signed Marlon Esparza, right? So they were looking to make, and they said it, they were looking to make Marlene Esparza the, mainstream Latina boxer out here. But guess what? There were already some badass Latinas out here kicking ass, and will kick Marlene Esparza's ass all up and down Easy Street, right? We have women like Jackie Nava out here. We have women like the Tigressa. We have women out here that in their sleep will wipe the floor with Marlene Esparza. But Marlene did right by, herself by getting a bronze medal at the Olympics. So she had lifted her pedigree from being just a fighter to now she's an Olympian who's turning into a fighter. And so Marlene Esparza was supposed to be Oscar and Dam's Katie Taylor, but she fell short because, like I said, you got to have your big girl panties on when you turn pro. It's some goons. I mean, not goons. There's some crones out here that will turn you upside down in that ring if you're not careful, right? So they they underestimated what was going on, and Mara Esparza now she can't even bust a grape. Like, she doesn't even have the punching power to be that thing that they were trying to have her be. And it's becoming more legitimate, the grand scheme of things, the environment now, everybody's stepping up. So Marlene couldn't hold her chair, her seat, as that mainstream badass Latina that they were trying to push. So they signed also Senicia Estrada, who does have that moxie. She is that badass Latina broad that can get in there with the best of them. I would love to see Sinicia fight some of these Mexican crones down there, and see what she really got. Um, but that's for Oscar and them to really um, extend themselves and care like Eddie Hearn is caring, and put on large shows where Shanicia can fight these legendary crones out there. Like I said, Jackie Nava, Barbie out there, and I know my fellow female fighters. We call each other on by their nickname. So they call me Sugar, or they gonna call me Too Bad. They're not gonna call me Natalie, right? That was the thing. That's the thing about women's boxing. They're gonna call you by your nickname because that's what you earned, right? So if I talk about Barbie, everybody knows who Barbie is, right? I'm sorry, I didn't write the names down right. Right now I'm just spitting off the dome, you know what I'm saying? So La Tigresa. The reason why I know Jackie Nava is because I kind of like her whole name, so I remember that. But these are baddie crones now that I would love to see Sinicia get in the ring with. Tony's reviews comes. Estrada comes in with the Superwoman cape. She's a great fighter. Yeah, she's got a good deal. She shows up. She's a show woman, and she shows up. She can fight, and I like her. I just want to. I. It's not enough for me to like your outfit. I want to see what you can do. I want to see you extend yourself. I want to see you fight. Shanicia Estrada is on my pound for pound list as one of the best women out there, right? So I just want to see her fight the best out there. I want to see what she does against these crones. I want her to take that crown and really be that baddie that she is. She's still young. She's moving on into crone. She's going to be a crone one day. But we have to know this, that each day is a day where we're slowly leaving the industry. We're slowly leaving the floor for another baddie to come. And we cheapen ourselves when we don't raise the standard. We cheapen ourselves when we're fighting tomato cans. And then when we're out the game, nobody knows. Oh, you fought this tomato can, you fought this body bag. No one's saying, oh shit, Sugar fought her. Damn. Okay. She beat Sugar. That means she bad as hell. And all of those things. Oh, it was a close fight. These are the things that build your value as a female fighter. They're not getting that yet. But we have time. So yes, Franchon Cruz is signed with De La Hoya, and Franchon Cruz is now the undisputed super middleweight champion. Yeah, so she went up there and took all those belts that the Clarissa and I think Marshall, they're not in that anymore. She went high. She went up in weight, and there's not really any. I don't want to say this, but there's opposition that can step to Franchon. I would love to see, like I said, I keep calling this fighter's name Raquel Miller. I would love to see her fight any of those women in that weight class. She had a great amateur background pedigree, and she's a good pro now, 11-0, I think. And everyone's conveniently, uh, you know, keeping her out the dance, and I think that's bull crap, right? This is a fight. This is fighting. This is not this is a pageantry, right? So if a broad has gotten to 11-0 and she's earned those fights, which Raquel Miller has, um give her a shot. give her a shot, right? Even if you end up robbing her, give her a shot. Um, so yes, the De La Hoya is known for collaborating with other boxers to put on these big promotions, and hopefully, down in the future, women, the other female fighters from Marlene, Sinicia, or Franchon could co-promote some of these shows now, and put other women on with Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, to now make a platform for other female fighters, for women's boxing, to make more money and to make money. We have Bob Arum, Top Rank. Okay, so Bob Arum. Can we go to the next slide? I'm so sorry. I think the next one was Golden Boy. Who's there? I forgot that I have pictures. Yeah, so that's Oscar De La Hoya. That's gold. That's the face of Golden Boy. Okay, so he's the one. He signed. He's doing good things for women's boxing and giving us a platform on his big cards, and signing these fighters to put on a show. Let's go on to the next image. My lovely assistant. Hello. Yeah. So this is Bob Arum. This is Top Rank, Mr. Top Rank. Okay. He has been very vocal about the way he feels about women's boxing. He don't like it. He don't like it. But he has always had a showpiece to show, for the sake of saying, I make my money in boxing, so I'm going to have I have men boxing, I'll have a woman, I'll have a piece to show, right? So he's been in the industry since 1966. Okay? So this man has been around. He his showpiece started with, he signed Lucia Riker, and I don't know if y'all have been keen on women's boxing long enough to know Lucia Riker was one of the baddest women out there. I think there were some stuff going on with Lucia where some of these great matches that should have happened never happened with her. I don't know if her heart pumps Kool-Aid, that cherry Kool-Aid, or she really had some issues with her management. But she never fought Christy Martin. She never fought Mia St. John. She never fought any of the other women who were names and who were out there. Chrissy Martin's face looked like roast beef in one of her fights with the blood and everything. And I would have loved to see her and Lucia Riker go at it. Tony's reviews: Lucia is the greatest female to ever fight. She was so good that they let her fight a man. Kickboxer and undefeated champion. Yeah, y'all know, what that happened with that one though, huh? Yeah. This is the thing about and thanks for chiming in with that one, Tony. With women's boxing, there was a time where we were looked at as not being women. So if you wanted to fight, or if you were a badass woman fighter, automatically you should fight a man. Why? Why? Why for? Why for I gotta fight a man? If I'm a bad broad that can fight, why do you want to see me fight a man? No, I will fight a woman. That's what I do. That's why I'm a woman. I'm a badass woman, and I want to fight another badass woman. So they put her, because she was a good kickboxer, they put her in the ring with this guy. And you don't do that. You don't do that, right? Because now this man has got to defend his masculinity. He got to defend his masculine ancestors. He got to defend the men of the earth. He can't let Lucia Riker beat him. And for sure, what he did, he knocked her ass smooth out. Yes, He slumped Lucia Riker, slumped her. I think they had to carry her out the ring. Yeah, he let it be known that, listen, we won't be doing any more of this. Lucia Riker is a baddie, but she ain't bad enough. She ain't too bad to get slumped by a dude. So that's what happened, right? And then I think after that, I think that kind of ruined Lucia, because once you get knocked the out like that, you get shell shocked. You get shell shocked, whether it be male or female. You don't want that shit to happen to you ever again. The human body is wired that way. The memories come back and the trauma come back as if it's still happening. That's why, like, I always revert back to me. I'm sorry, y'all, because I'm me. I can only speak from my experiences. But not many of the people that I fought continued to fight after I fought them. Why? Because I was designed to ruin fighters. I was designed to knock a fighter out. And if I didn't knock them out, I was going to beat them so badly that they were afraid. They were afraid to get in there round by round, right? So someone messaged me the other day about, I mean, I had, I was the first, me and Fujin Riker fought, and we were Fujin, goodness, not Riker, Reika, Fujin Reika, we fought, and we were the first women bout in Japan at Korakuen Hall, right? So I made history in Japan with Fujin, and I was hitting her in that fight. She was I would, but what Sugar was doing was, Sugar didn't go in there to knock her out. Sugar was going in there to show the people of Japan and to show the world that women are skilled fighters. So after 6 rounds, they said Fujin won the fight. And I'm thinking in the corner, when they said that, when they raised her hand and said that she had won the fight, I'm thinking, I should have knocked that bitch out. But it is what it is, that's it. That's history, right? So someone messaged me the other day and they were saying that Fujin Raika ain't doing so well. Because when you box, you have to understand that you win when you leave with your faculties, when you leave with your brain intact, when you can speak a full sentence, when you can remember your name, when you can still function. And apparently Fujin is over there and she can't, like, she's not doing well. She can't, she's got her brain has been affected by the trauma in fighting opposition such as myself. I wasn't the first. I wasn't the only one to damage Rika. She's fought some serious contention out there, and um, honorable mention for her, because she didn't fight nobody easy, right? She got some decisions that she shouldn't have got, but she by no means fought anybody easy. But I digress. Back to what we were talking about. So Lucia Riker was Bob Aaron's first piece. She didn't fight. She didn't fight who she should have. Tony comes in and he says she's the greatest female to ever fight. Prove it, because she ain't fought nobody. Lucia Riker hasn't. She's a great fighter, but she had not fought the opposition for me to call her the greatest, right? When we say a fighter is the greatest, Sugar Ray Robinson is the greatest fighter to ever live. And Sugar Ray Robinson fought everybody. You cannot say that Sugar Ray Robinson dodged or did not fight great opposition. Tony's reviews. That's a great achievement to be the first to fight in Japan. Uh, yeah, thank you for that. I it it's bittersweet because I shoulda beat her, but that I guess that wasn't a part of the story for me. But it was great. The people of Japan love women boxing. They love Sugar. They still, like I said, they still email me. They still message me. They still ask me, when you coming back? Sugar, Natori, right? That's what they used to call. That's what they used to cheer when I'd go over there, and they'd see me. So great people, great fanfare. I love it. I loved um, all my opportunities of being there. Eric comes in because they know you won, and we're just a nice Canadian. Ah, yeah, and you know what? We got to stop. They say nice guys finish last. We can't be finishing last now. The Canadian women were they, to be honest, when women's boxing first started, the Canadian women were the most dangerous women on the scene because they were actually taught to box. Like these women were fighting, um, amateurs and pros. They were fighting. And the thing about, I love Canadian boxing because they have this element. I don't know if I don't see it anymore. I'm sorry. The greats have passed on. Arnie Beam, that laid the great foundation for fighters like Lennox Lewis and, other, I just said Lennox, but other great fighters. Because there was a solid foundation of skills and skill set. I'm talking about, they over in Quebec, that like there were names, the Johnson brothers, Sean Sullivan, like these guys that were great Canadian boxers. What is it? Good. I know his first name. I don't remember his last name. His first name, him and his brother fought. Grant, the Grant brothers over there in Quebec. Like, these guys were solid, right? And whoever taught these guys were teaching the women. So that's why I kind of ended up there because that's where, you was going to learn something up there. Um, if you are a fighter. Um, and then, you got the US where US was more about style. It wasn't that gritty foundation. It was about style, right? If I could shimmy enough, if I could perform good enough, I can steal the fight from you. So styles make fights, and that's how the battles were fought and won, um, in those times. But I come back, so Lucia Riker was a piece. Jessica Rakowski, Canadian girl, was one of Bob Aaron's top ranked pieces, and she actually could fight. And I know her coach very well, but not well enough to remember. I'm bad with names, y'all. And not to mean disrespectful or anything, but I give everybody a nickname. I'm sorry. It's not being disrespectful. My grandmother used to say, your name, the name that your peers give you, is your real name, right? Because that is the impression that you've left on them, right? So I pride myself on being called Sugar. I pride myself on being called Too Bad and Miss Too Bad, right? Because that was the impression that I've left. So Jessica Rakowski, Canadian girl, great fighter. She was a champion too. Was signed with Top Rank, and now Michaela Meyer is signed with Top Rank. So they're giving, he don't like us. He don't like us to fight, but he does have a piece, and he does play a part in women's boxing, and I appreciate it. So moving on to the next slide. Please, 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 please. Next slide. Ooh, looking like we got the money team here. So, we have one of the greatest businessmen of boxing, Floyd Mayweather, and his CEO of Mayweather Promotions, Leonard Ellerbe. And so these two guys have done great things with male boxing. Floyd has become a commercial name, a household name in boxing, which is fantastic for a fighter such as him. He's not a heavyweight. He wasn't a knockout puncher, but he knew the game. He knew how to box. He knew how to play it. He had a great wealth of knowledge that groomed him to be what he is. Uncle Roger and them, Daddy and them, Floyd Mayweather Sr., they were all fighters. So they just poured all of that knowledge into him. And they knew how they knew the pitfalls, and they knew the stepping stones that he needed to go through to become this mega celebrity superstar, not just not just a good fighter, but a superstar of our industry of boxing. So Mayweather, they took up some pretty sound A-list female fighters, okay? With the likes of Ava Knight. Ava Knight was bad. I think she came up in a time the pool was shallow. The talent pool was shallow. Not that she was fighting body bags or anything, but boy, I would love if Ava Knight was around now. She was good. She was a bad broad. She is a baddie. I think she's a crone now. But Ava Knight, boy, she went down to Mexico and fought these names, Nava and them, and Barbie and them. I love that about her. She had moxie. She wasn't just a one-trick pony, and she was a beautiful woman, but she didn't use that to open the door. She used these. That broad can fight. Um Layla McCarter. A crone. If she ain't a crone, she's the crone. I think I would rank her number one pound for pound. She is a women's boxing great. She's fought pretty much all the names before these so-called girls now. I'm talking about names, serious names. Chevelle Hallback, you know, we call her Chevy. We call Chevelle Chevy. Like Belinda LaCorrente, um, uh, uh, Melissa Hernandez. Like these are names like that Layla McCarter have fought. These are women who made the industry, right? That brought that respect to the industry, right? They didn't hop over heads and say, "Oh, well, now look, we're here, and no one was here before." They didn't Christopher Columbus nobody, right? Right? I say Christopher Columbus because people were already on these islands and already there when Christopher Columbus said he discovered the place. How you going to discover somewhere that people already live? So it's the same thing with these broads now that are being signed. These Olympians. They were people. We were living that life. We were about that life before they came about, and we were about that real life. Layla McCarter was fighting 3-minute rounds. Okay, most of us were fighting 3-minute rounds because you had to do that to prove your worth in boxing. Not women's. It wasn't even women's boxing. In boxing, you want to fight, you better fight these 3 minutes like the men do. Yeah. And then, if y'all didn't know this, I'm gonna tell y'all, Floyd Mayweather signed Savannah Marshall. out the hot grease first. He was the first person to sign her. She moved out to Vegas and they was going to build her. They saw it coming. They wanted to put together this mega fight that's about to happen, her versus Clarissa Shields. They saw it from the amateurs. They picked her up. So she moved out to Vegas, and I think she lived out there for like 6 months or something, training with them. And I don't think it just didn't work out, right? Because, like I said, styles make fights, and Savannah Marshall's style is very European. Is very, you know, to the books of the UK, the typical UK fighter. And of course, you know that money team style is all about show and you know all about that showbiz. So I don't think she fit well in building herself as a fighter in on that on the money team, and she ended up leaving, going back to the UK, and now she's with Peter Fury, Tyson Fury's dad, and she's doing well, and we're going to see how well she does versus Clarissa Shields coming up soon. So I'm glad that that contract's inked, and we can look forward to that coming. The thing that's kind of scary to me about this mega fight, like, come on, y'all, give me. And this is why I say, you know, women's boxing, we need to make we need to spread the wealth. We need to stop giving it to one queen at a time, one broad at a time, when there's so many baddies out here. Because now look, after this mega, right? We had mega um with Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. Ain't no meganess going to happen no more after that, right? I don't know if I want to see Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor part two. Amanda Serrano versus Delphine Persoon. Huh. That's interesting. I would love to see that fight, right? But there's not enough opposition up there to where it's remains exciting, right? It's no longer exciting. That mega happened. Now we have Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall. This is a mega that's gonna happen. And then after this mega, after somebody get beat, then what? Then what? You see what I'm saying? There's nobody waiting in the wings, licking their chops for their opportunity. We don't see any other baddie. Marshall's the only baddie. And then after that, it gets boring, right? So that is something that I'm concerned about. So Savannah Marshall is no longer with the Mayweather Promotions, but Mayweather, these guys, they've done, and you know, I think she mentioned something about broken promises to her from the Money Mayweather team, and you'll always get into those things. My whole thing is, listen, chick, at least they promised you something. We wasn't getting nothing. We shoot. You felt good with the damn promise. Oh, I could train down there with y'all. Good. So you know this is where it is now. You get to eat. We was eating table scraps and bones, and now you sending the filet mignon back to the kitchen because it wasn't cooked the way you wanted it, the way you promised it was going to come out, right? So it is what it is. Double-edged sword. Okay. Um, Lovely assistant, please, on to the next slide. Please. Next slide. Okay, so we are looking at Dimitri Selita. Okay. Dimitri Selita uh, is the man or the face of Selita Promotions. He is a former pro boxer, among other things that he's done in the in boxing. But he is really like he's really big now because he has signed some names in women's boxing. He signed Christina Hammer, which was the heavyweight champion for a good amount of years out of Germany, and they were doing well by her. I think, like I said, Christina Hammer is the only fighter that I've ever known to win a fight that she got her ass knocked out in. She got TKO'd in a fight and still won the fight, by Anne Sophie Mathis. Oh, Anne Sophie Mathis out of France? That right there, she bodied Holly Holm. Yeah, Mathis was the jam. Look her up. She had Cecilia Brækhus doing the stanky leg. Yeah, man. Anne Sophie Mathis she is also a great. She is also a legend. She was very powerful. I had second thoughts about stepping up to fight that one. Yeah, yeah. I would have fought her, but damn, that one I had some great respect for her because I knew she could hurt. She could hurt Sugar. She could hurt because that's what she do. She was on the same caliber to me as Sugar because she ruined fighters. Hmm. But she also fought some great opposition too. So I'll look up Anne Sophie Mathis out of France, you guys. But Dimitri Selita or Selita Promotions, they have Christina Hammer and Clarissa Shields. That's Clarissa Shields' promoter, right? And he's not huge like Eddie Hearn, right? But because, yeah, I guess he does well by Clarissa, and Clarissa is happy with what he's doing because she is very much a part of how her career is navigated and is growing, which that's what you want as a fighter. You want to be able to have a say in your development and where your career goes in this game, and he's allowing her to do that clearly, and he's putting, he's signing her to have, fights on platforms to where she is visible to the world, um internationally, which is great. um and then on to the next slide, you guys, please, my lovely assistant. Next slide. Look at this one. So this is Logan Paul, you guys, and he just jumped in. He just jumped on the scene. Um, this one, I can't really take him seriously just yet, but I gotta mention his name because he is a part of the biggest women's boxing match and boxing match um, that has happened to date. He is Amanda Serrano's promoter. Now his background is he also boxes. Um, he but his foundation is he is a YouTuber. So he started off being a YouTuber and had a great following um, from YouTube and social media. He's like a celebrity personality there on the net, and he took up him and his brothers. They're great athletes, and he took up boxing. And you see him fighting against other boxers, and not name boxers, but other athletes. He's taking on other athletes that are not boxers, and he's actually bodying them. So uh he knows how to generate the interest. He's got some swag in the game. And so he has brought his social media following to the women's boxing arena, to our industry, which makes him a great promoter of us. And I'm hoping that he does a lot more, not just with Amanda, who can't even make a phone call for herself. Ain't that something? She must have snuck and got on YouTube or something. I don't know how they got together. How do you find her? Cause Jordan ain't gonna let Amanda get no phone calls. Mama said no. Like how we used to say back in the day. Your friend said, ask your mom if you could come out and play. You go and ask your mom. She'd be like, no, you can't go outside. You can't talk on no phone. You go back to your friend. Mama said no. So Jordan said no, but yes, in this case, because Amanda signed with Logan Paul, and she got the opportunity of a lifetime for a female fighter to be a headline pro match at Madison Square Garden that seated 20,000 people. Over 1 million people chimed in to watch her fight, and I think it's amazing, and I like what Logan Paul has brought to our industry. So next slide. Next slide. Hello, come on, y'all, don't do me like this. Next slide. Okay, so y'all ain't gonna bring the next slide. Fine then. Okay. So next slide is what you are looking at is the face of Team Sarlin. That's Kelly Sarlin. Yeah. Um, and he had some. They're over in Germany, and Germany used to be the place that you go. You knew you wasn't going to win if you flew over to Germany to fight. Even if you won, you was going to lose, right? But Germany had some great female fighters too. Susie Kentakalen or something like that. Susie, she was small, but boy, she could fight. She was like she was a small midget fighter, but she could fight her butt off. Okay, and she was over in Germany. One of um uh goodness, I mean, off the dome, there were some great German women that were out there, but you just knew that you weren't gonna win if you went over there, even if you won. Like I said, it happened. Christina Hammer uh, got TKO'd and still won her fight. That's what was going on over there. Okay, so Team Sarlin, been in the game since 1978. Okay, was the leading promoter over there in Germany, but they got into women's boxing by signing the first lady, Cecilia Brækhus, to their promotion. Okay, that's why she's called the first lady. She was the first woman to be signed by a large promotional company such as Sarlin over there in Germany, and they built her. They built her career. They gave her a good foundation, and now they have been absorbed by another promotional company called Westerman Boxing. And can you go on to the next slide, um, please? So this is Casey Westerman, and they acquired Team Sarlin. Uh, what happened to my last slide? Come on, y'all, listen. Come on. That's the last slide. Don't do me like that. Okay. So this man, Casey Westman, this promoter now is out of LA. They're based in LA, but they've absorbed the German company of Team Sarlin. And his background is from sports marketing and management. Okay. Um, they're focused on establishing events, particularly in the UK now, and they want to build women's boxing. They want to use women's boxing as a springboard to get them going. And so their motto, okay, is, or they're looking to have a super featherweight tournament. You know, there's there's always talks, but this is their talk. They want to do a super featherweight tournament to um, bring out or bring in some of the opposition, some of the talent in that division, and build a stable of great uh, athletes from there. He's been quoted to say it's not about a name, it's about finding the best athletes, whether they're a name or not. And I love that, because that is now we talking. Now we talking. Right? Now we're cooking with Crisco, right? Because now when you're finding the best, you know, you have there's levels now, and now there's depth, and there's more potential to bring value and to make money. And that's what we do this. So I mean, we, as fighters, as women, we were doing this for the love, and to prove who we are. But it feels good now to know that we can make some money to take care of ourselves and our families doing this as well. So they've signed Cecilia Brækhus and Michaela Lauren. So Michaela Lauren was a middleweight. She was a pretty decent contender too. She was known to uh, kiss her opponent on the lips. You know, when you do that face off, she would kiss her opponent on the lips. And some of us would like it and some of us would not like it. But that's what she used to do. Um that was her swag, her swing, you know. Um and she used to, yeah, she did okay for herself out there. And so that's it, you guys. Like, these are the promoters, these are the people, this is the information that you will want to know, you will want to look out for when you're hearing about these women's boxing fights out here and the opportunities that are happening. If you have a female fighter that you uh, like, and you want to um, uh, Tony's reviews. The one that kissed wasn't that the one that kissed wasn't that the super tall female? Yes, she's very tall. Yeah, Michaela Lauren is very tall, and she kind of looks like homeboy off a Rocky. If he dies, he dies. She kind of remind me of him. That Russian one that Rocky had to fight. She kind of puts me in the mind of that. She has that type of look to her. Um, yeah, but that was her swag, you know, and we all, like I said, we all had our swag. We all had our thing that we used to sell ourselves. And that was what she did. That's what she used. So, that, yeah, that's it. You know, the game's changing, and the it's getting better for us, right? It's the opportunities are coming. It's not perfect as yet, but now we have promoters. Now we have women's boxing has big promoters that are putting us on their shows, and putting us on platforms. And now now you can clearly see we obviously are putting asses in seats, because some people, that's what people used to say before about women's boxing. You got to put asses in seats. Women's boxing, no one watches it, no one was gonna buy a ticket. Well, look now, look at you, look at you now, watching us, like, loving us, paying for us, paying per viewing for us, right? So it feels good. And it's only going to get better from here. It's growing. I would love, I mean, just putting these feelers out there, and putting these vibes out there. Sugar would love to be a commentator on some of these matches, right? Because these commentators, I put it on silent, to be honest. I watch female matches and I put the junk on silent, because these commentators that are commentating the women's matches, they don't know shit about women's boxing. R.I.P. Uncle Roger. Yeah, and Uncle Roger, I trained with him actually. He was a funny, fun-loving guy. But they don't know shit about women's boxing. So how you going to talk about something that you really don't know about, right? I mean, you really don't know the background, and you clearly haven't been invested in it enough to know what you're looking at, right? So I'm putting the feelers out there, right? Uh, Sugar wants to commentate some of these women's matches. I ain't afraid of nobody, right? I'm going to say what I said, and I said what I said, right? Because my loyalty is always to the truth. My loyalty is always to the growth of this industry. What I got to say is valuable, right? Because I'm making it up. This is real out here. It's real in the field. If you want to know the authentic happenings of women's boxing, if you want to learn something about women's boxing and boxing, because listen, Sugar done sat on the panel on Talkin' Fight on Fridays with the big dogs, right? And we had some great conversation, right? I know my stuff. Um, Come see me. Come see about Sugar. Okay. Like, subscribe, share, and always come back on a Wednesday night at 7:30 to see Sugar. Okay. Come get some of this sugar. Okay. Have a great weekend, you guys. And listen, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. If I didn't mention your name, I'm sorry, baby. Let's see who else chimed in. Um, Thank you, Ross Johnson, for chiming in. Thank you guys for stopping by and giving me some attention, and making this a fun night. Um, like I said, have a great weekend, you guys, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye bye.